this be one of the best moments of your life. You're listening to the Business Mirror Podcast for a broader look on business with Senior Editor Dennis Estopase.
Good day. Welcome to the Business Mirror Be a Broader Look podcast. Today's podcast focuses on energy efficiency and energy conservation initiatives and the challenges in these areas. We podcast the abridged version of the story titled Energy Efficiency, Conservation Remain a Challenge for Everyone. The story was written by Business Mirror reporter Lenny Lectura. The story was published on October 29, 2020. For the text version online, please go to www.businessmirror.com.ph and search for Broader Look. For the print edition, please read the Business Mirror newspaper. Let's get on with the story. The Department of Energy has repeatedly spread the gospel that full compliance with the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act would result in profits, savings, and sustainable economic development. The challenge, however, is how to compel government agencies and private entities to reduce their electricity and fuel consumption. The good thing is, government has Republic Act 11285. The law seeks to institutionalize energy efficiency and conservation, enhancing the efficient use of energy, and granting incentives to energy efficiency and conservation projects. It took effect 18 months ago. The law read, "It is hereby declared the policy of the state to institutionalize energy efficiency and conservation as a national way of life geared towards the efficient and judicious utilization of energy by formulating, developing, and implementing energy and conservation plans and programs." A set of the implementing rules and regulations was approved in just 6 months after the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Law was signed on May 24, 2019, and compliance is mandatory. For now, implementation is done in stages. According to Patrick Aquino, Director of the Department of Energy's Energy Utilization Management Bureau, the Philippines is in a very good position at this point in time that government is not yet strictly enforcing the law. Aquino added the country is still in transition in terms of getting people to understand energy efficiency and conservation. To keep people informed on how to make energy efficiency and conservation a national way of life, the Energy Department has been in consultation with concerned government agencies, local government units, commercial, industrial, transport sectors, and other relevant stakeholders since last year up to now. There are ongoing implementation policies, but the focus is now on awareness and educating stakeholders on compliance mechanism, Aquino said. Nonetheless, the Philippine Energy Efficiency Alliance said it is pleased that the Department of Energy is reaching out to other government entities, civil society, and the private sector. The Philippine Energy Efficiency Alliance said it is also pleased that the government agency found useful most of the group's inputs through the consultations for the implementing rules and regulations. The Department of Energy initially conducted interagency consultations. It then expanded the consultations to include key stakeholders to gather public inputs from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Philippine Energy Efficiency Alliance President Alexander Ablaza said that the approval of the implementing rules and regulations ensures that the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act, after 29 years of a voluntary energy efficiency market, is implemented responsibly and without delay. While the Department of Energy currently strives for compliance rather than imposition, the law has administrative fines and penalties. Aquino said there are responsibilities and there are actually obligations here that will be backed up by penalties and fines. Aquino said the Philippine Energy Efficiency Alliance is averse on the carrot and stick approach, but wants businesses to take a look at investments and opportunities in shifting to energy efficiency and conservation. The stick here means fines, which range from a minimum of 10,000 pesos to a maximum of 1 million pesos. Violators could also be jailed to discourage them from just absorbing the cost of penalties instead of complying. Section 33 of the law states that responsible officers and employees of any establishment or organization who willfully commits any prohibited acts would be criminally liable. Violators could be imprisoned for a year up to 5 years or be meted out with a hefty fine ranging from a minimum of 100,000 pesos to 100 million pesos or twice the amount of costs avoided for non-compliance, whichever is higher or both, upon the discretion of the court. Aquino warned that, make no mistake, there are fines and penalties under non-compliance. One of the salient points of the law is the minimum energy performance standard for the commercial, industrial, and transport sectors and energy-consuming products including appliances, lighting, electrical equipment, machinery, and transport vehicles. A label on the energy requirement and consumption efficiency must be displayed on the packaging and on the products. No manufacturer, importer, distributor, and retailer shall sell, lease, or import any energy-consuming product unless the product complies with the minimum energy performance and the product or its package is labeled in accordance with the Act. The same labeling requirements also apply to vehicle manufacturers, importers, and dealers to determine the vehicle's fuel economy performance. This allows consumers to make an informed decision in choosing their preferred vehicles. Aquino said, with the timelines on energy labels being agreed with the industry, consumers will see the new energy labels starting 2021. Also, new buildings and those that will undergo renovations must comply with energy-conserving design. This includes sourcing at least 1% of the total power demand from renewable sources. A popular choice is the installation of solar photovoltaic panels. Aquino said the Department of Energy is also seeking to have the Philippine Green Building Code updated. Aquino said work is being undertaken and is now required under this law that new and existing buildings used for commercial and industrial use, as well as the retrofit of the existing buildings, would have to meet the energy-conserving design for buildings. Establishments with an annual energy consumption of 500,000 to 4 million kilowatt-hours are mandated to employ a certified conservation officer. Those with an annual energy consumption of more than 4 million kilowatt-hours, meanwhile, would need to employ a certified energy manager. The conservation officer and the energy manager are responsible for submitting the energy consumption and conservation reports to the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy has moved the deadline of submissions of these reports from the original June 30, 2020 schedule to the new timeline of April 15, 2021. The extra time provided by the Department of Energy would hopefully allow the small companies and medium-sized establishments to understand and prepare for their reportorial obligations under the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act. Reportorial obligations include documenting and submitting their annual energy consumption data. Ablaza said they are starting to see the larger energy end users in the private sector preparing for their first obligation under the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act, like the submission of their annual energy consumption reports. Once designated establishments comply with this, Ablaza said the awareness of their energy consumption baseline would now provide a quantifiable basis for them to fulfill their other obligations, such as the design of their energy management systems, energy efficiency and conservation programs, and targeted efficiency improvements, as well as the hiring of a certified energy manager or certified conservation officer. One way to assure compliance is by providing incentives. On fiscal incentives, energy efficiency projects will be included in the annual investment priorities plan of the Board of Investments for at least 10 years. Aquino said there are fiscal incentives provided under the Omnibus Investment Code of the Philippines. These would include income tax holidays, duty-free importations, among others. Non-fiscal incentives, meanwhile, include awards and recognition for innovations in energy efficiency. There will also be technical assistance from government agencies in the development and promotion of energy-efficient technologies. Government financial institutions may also provide concessional financial packages for the development and use of renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. Development Bank of the Philippines President and CEO Emmanuel Herbosa said concessional financing is available to support energy efficiency and conservation projects. Herbosa said the DBP is looking at project merits and that collaterals would not weigh as much. He added that the Development Bank of the Philippines wants to see the certainty on revenues. Herbosa said the advantage of DBP is that it can extend tenure, adding that the bank probably has that flexibility to respond better. Herbosa said during a recent forum that concession could also mean longer-term loans or even grace period. Herbosa said the Development Bank of the Philippines can stretch requirements to meet cash flow and also enable companies to meet usual term loan provisions. The Development Bank of the Philippines' total energy portfolio loan is at least 16 billion pesos. Herbosa said the state-owned bank is well positioned to support small-scale and medium-scale enterprises. Aquino said that with the recent issuance of the guidelines for energy service companies, the Department of Energy is mobilizing private sector in investments for energy efficiency and conservation projects. The Department of Energy is hoping that a combination of incentives, assistance, and audit might soon pave the way for full compliance of the law. Aquino said the Energy Department is expected to undertake audit by next year. There are already ongoing audits for government under the Government Energy Management Program. Regular audit, which involves physical site inspections, are scheduled to start next year. Aquino said that as of the moment, their energy audits are conducted virtually and that the regular audit will take place if quarantine restrictions are lifted. The Government Energy Management Program is intended to reduce government's monthly consumption of electricity and petroleum products by at least 10%. It shall cover all government units, government-owned and controlled corporations, including its subsidiaries or other self-governing board or commission of the government of local government units, state universities, and colleges. Prior to Republic Act 11285, the Government Energy Management Program only covered national government agencies. Aquino said last year's savings from 19 agencies stood at 54 million pesos. With Republic Act 11285 in full effect this year, the Department of Energy is expecting higher compliance and reported savings, according to Aquino. There are at least 23 government agencies and state-owned schools that have voluntarily complied with the law, latest data from the Department of Energy showed. The compliance rate of these firms reached 12%, according to Aquino. 23 firms out of the 192 is equivalent to 11.9% compliance rate, Aquino said. That is up to May 30, 2020. According to Ablaza, if businesses lack in-house capital resources to implement energy efficiency projects brought about by the pandemic, then this only strengthens the case for off-balance sheet financing, an accounting practice whereby a company does not include a liability on its balance sheet. Ablaza said the pandemic is a crisis and there's a saying that in every crisis there is a silver lining. Cash is not the problem, Ablaza said. It's the plumbing. Ablaza said they can engage an escrow to put up energy financing projects, scout for a public-private partnership proponent to bundle street lightings in public building retrofits, explore district cooling systems, and long-term energy source solutions providers to provide service outside the balance sheet of end users. Ablaza said that as long as they are able to mobilize debt finance from financial institutions in a more responsive way, as long as they are able to flow equity and capital through corporate shareholders in new equity structures, as long as they allow government to procure energy service company performance contracts, then capital financial constraints shouldn't be a problem. With only a few months left before the law is fully implemented, the Philippine Energy Efficiency Alliance observed the need to raise awareness of energy end users on their obligations, especially for the small-scale and medium-scale enterprises and middle-market companies. Equally important is for government to recognize energy efficiency as a first fuel of the economy. Ablaza said other agencies, especially in the economic cluster and investment promotion agencies, should embrace this paradigm shift. Without the de-risking response from government, private capital mobilization will not reach the scale needed for the country to meet the 2040 energy efficiency and conservation roadmap targets set by the Department of Energy, Ablaza said.
Thank you for listening to the Business Mirror podcast. For a broader look on business, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Business Mirror. Until next time.